Good evening, leaders and members of Family Federation for World Peace. So I'm very happy to share again about the true parents. I would like to explain because next week, 27 is the 61st anniversary of True Parents Holy Wedding. So relating with this, I chose my lecture, sorry, moment. Okay, so the title today is 1960, March 16, because this is a historical turning point for human history. Actually, this is the lunar calendar, so therefore, every year the date changes. This year is April 27. So you can see this is the genealogy of the Jesus. Jesus is the first Messiah. He came as a Messiah on the foundation of Judaism. Okay. So we studied divine principle, our first ancestor, Adam and Eve, and from the Adam to the Jesus, this line is, we know some famous person, right? Adam failed, Adam could not unite with God, and human fall, and then God started the restoration right after. But in order to find righteous person, it took 1,600 years, and God found Noah. And the providence, Noah was a very faithful person, but his son could not unite with him. So providence moved to Abraham 400 years later. And then Abraham is the first ancestor of the faith. So Jewish people, Israelites, or Muslim people in Palestinian, they are very proud to have the Abraham as ancestors because he had an absolute faith. Even he could decide to follow God's order, even to kill his own son, Isaac. But he did not, it was not necessary because God saw his absolute faith. So therefore you can see after Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah, and Perez. And then in this genealogy, usually the genealogy means based on the men. This is a father's lineage or men's lineage. But you can see few people or women's name is there. Tamar, Rahab, and Ruth, and Bathsheba, and then finally Jesus' mother Mary. You know? So until to the Jesus could be born as a pure begotten son, God have to work so hard, you know, so many generations. This is around 4,000 years from Adam to Jesus Christ. And nobody actually, Jewish people are very proud, this genealogy, they are very proud because they always kept the record, and they kept the lineage based on the father's lineage, right? But in the Bible, you know, very few women's name. So this has a very important meaning. So I will explain gradually. So after the human fall, God as a parent started to restore, you know, we call providence of restoration. And what God wanted to restore at first, the birthright of the eldest son. Because originally, God, as a father, and then he created Adam and Eve, the Adam should be the eldest son. Actually, God created only one man. He's the eldest son. He should be the ancestor of all humankind. But because of the Lucifer, archangel cheated Eve, and then Eve also cheated Adam. So Adam could not be the eldest son position. He followed women, and women followed the servant. Therefore, God has to work through the history to restore first, or birthright of the eldest son. You can see this picture shows, this is the father is Isaac. He became almost blind. And then the kneel down boy, he's Jacob. So this is the scenes. Actually, Jacob also cheated father, Isaac. And then beside the women, this is the mother. Mother is helping the Jacob to receive the blessing from father Isaac. Mother also helped him to cheat father. So women, the wife cheated also the husband. So it's a very strange story. So the Christian believe the Bible. Jewish people also very proud of the Bible story, but they cannot understand why they are cheating, even the father and the husband. Why this person could receive the blessing afterwards. So in the restoration process, we learned, the divine principle. God started to work to restore the birthright through Cain and Abel relationship. Cain is the first son position. Abel is the second son position. So God wanted to restore the birthright. By Abel, second son should become the first son position. Cain have to unite, surrender, to Abel with the love, actually. But they could not understand the deep meaning why they have to unite. Cain could not accept the situation. He also offered what God asked. So Abel and Cain prepared the offering, but Cain's offering was not accepted, and he got angry, right? And then Abel could not understand Cain's feeling, but he was just happy. And then because of this jealousy and anger, Cain killed Abel. So the first family, Adam's family's restoration could not be fulfilled. So God have to look for another family. And then this was Noah's family. And then Noah was very faithful. He offered, by building the ship on the mountain, right? And then providence is, go to with the sun. Also, Cain and Abel relationship. But they could not fulfill. And then postponed to the Abraham's family. Abraham also made mistake. And then providence postponed to Abraham, the grandson, Jacob and Esau. They are twins. And then Jacob could, he went through many difficulties, but he really understood to unite with the elder son Esau. And he offered his property after 21 years hard working, but his heart to unite with the elder brother, even elder brother Esau wanted to kill him. because he cheated to take his birthright and blessing from the father. But after hard working, Jacob understood how miserable, how terrible he did, and he wanted to really unite. So he offered, after hard working 21 years, properties and then respect, and they could unite. And for the first time, as a family level, the providence was successful. So therefore, Jacob was called Israel, the victorious person. So Israel, nation Israel, came from Jacob's victory. So even so, Messiah could not be sent because this was only the family level. Satan's side has already the nation. And also, Jacob Esau united, this was already around 40 years old. So God have to, in order to send the Messiah, begotten son, pure child, so these 40 years must be also purified. Therefore, God have to, continue the providence, and then Jacob's grandson, Perez and Zerah, was born through special women, the Tamar. So this is the foundation, restore the birthright. This was so this is a story how Jesus could be born as a pure son, begotten son. Okay, so therefore this foundation was there. So Jesus was born later. God has been working not only to restore the man, because women also formed. So how God has been working to restore women. Let's see history. Thus, God have to start the restoration of women from the lowest class in order to avoid Satan's accusation. Eventually, and on this basis, God could establish a woman who could receive the seed of the Son of God in her womb, and at the same time prepare women similar to pure Eve before the fall as a bride for the marriage of the Lamb. God, Almighty God cannot work short, have to be step by step. What restored must be step by step from the bottom. He have to work lowest class, because Eve became like a prostitute. Eve had a love relationship with Lucifer first, and then later she had a relationship with Adam. So she became like a prostitute. Therefore, God have to work prostitute women in God's side. So first, women, Rahab. She was a prostitute. This is the time of the after the Moses, and then Jewish people have to escape from Egypt, right? And then Joshua is a leader at that time after the Moses, and then sent a spy to the Jericho to check how is God's land. Now enemy is living, so he sent a spy. Okay, this is the story at that time. Rahab had heard that the people of Israel escaped out of Egypt and came to her country, and that the God of Israel had guided them. She accepted that the God of Israel was the true God. And so she hid the two spies and let them escape. After Joshua received their report, he was able to conquer Jericho, commanding the Israelites. So this woman is actually not the Jewish people, but she respected Jewish people because they escaped from the Egypt, and then they overcame suffering with the believing one God. So she respected, and then even she is not the Jewish people protected, and then because of her help, actually Jewish people conquered that the Jericho, the city. Then another woman, Ruth, her name is Ruth. She's a Gentile. Gentile means she's not Jewish people. So because of the famine, her land, she lived together with husband and then parents-in-law together. But because of the famine, lack of the food, something happened. Her husband died, her father-in-law died. So they have to, the mother-in-law said, her name is Naomi, and she had two sons, but 2 sons and then her husband, all 3 men died. And she said, you can go back home, you are still young. So you can marry again, and then I want to go back my hometown. And then one daughter-in-law accepted, yes, thank you, I will go back. But the Ruth, this woman said, I want to follow you, mother-in-law, and then your God is my God. She really respected her, and then her faith, and then she wanted to really serve her. So therefore, Naomi and then she went together, the hometown. Amen. I cannot see that. Sorry. Moment. Ruth went to the end of the heap of grain where Boaz was sleeping. Boaz is the owner of the field. By Naomi's instruction, she came stiffly and uncovered his feet and lay down. It was insane that the widow went to a relative and slept at his feet. If the worst happened, she could be sentenced to death by stoning. However, Ruth trusted Naomi and followed her instruction at the risk of her life. Boaz was surprised, but he understood the intention of Naomi, who wanted to retain the name of Elimelech and his property. Ruth became Boaz's wife. So actually, the widow should not marry, especially, she became like a prostitute, but she did not do by herself because her mother-in-law, Jewish faithful women, guided her to do so. And then this Boaz, the man, understood in order to continue her lineage. So he became, a husband. And then through Ruth, through this lineage, Jesus was born. And then another woman is Bathsheba. She was married, and it was against the Jewish law to have an affair even with a king, King David. So, and if the worst happened, she could be sentenced to death. Bathsheba must have prayed to God, asking whether or not to accept the invitation from King David, knowing she was risking her life. This is another amazing story, you know. She married, her husband is leaving, but King David wanted to have her, and then he sent Bathsheba's husband, the great soldier, to the war. And then during that time, and then he wanted to have, you know, Bathsheba. It is actually a terrible story if we don't know God's providence. So the king stole her. But it's not the problem. The point is, she did not just follow the king because of afraid. No, she prayed to God. Something she felt, you know, special God's plan. So therefore, even she was also afraid, but she prayed to God, and then finally accepted, and she became the wife of the King David. And then from this lineage, you know, Jesus was born, right? So normal, you know, people, you know, the Christians, Jewish people cannot understand why. You know, they just believe Jesus carried all the sins, you know. Yeah, it's true, but there are more deep meaning. And then another last person, you know, risk her life is Mary. Mary was in the Eve's position, engaged to Joseph, who was in the archangel position. Then a man on God's side, who was in Adam's position, have to take back Eve from the archangel. For Mary, it was an act of risking her life, since such an act as an engaged woman to conceive a child from another man deserved death at that time by stoning. However, Mary accepted and followed the message from God given her by an angel. So she was engaged. She has already a partner. So parents prepared this marriage in the future. But during this time, you know, God sent the angels to her. You have to go to the married man, you know, not a single person, married man. And a much elder person, you know. This is a crazy thing. But Mary, yes, just like before the Tamar or Rahab, Bathsheba, so she had also absolute faith in God. And then in front of God, I am just a servant. I will do with my life. So she accepted, you know. And then through her completely deny herself and follow God, and Jesus could be born through her. So this is how God has been working, okay? We can know God is working. God has a plan. God is working through the principle. So due to the fall, Eve, daughter of God, became like a prostitute, right? To relationship with the archangel, and then after, you know, with Adam, son of God, became, you know, son of God was controlled by women. So therefore, reverse course, God have to restore reverse course. The first woman must be prostitute. This was Rahab. And then next is Ruth. She is not the prostitute, but she was a Gentile, not Jewish people. Jewish people don't like to marry with, outside, because they believe only Jewish people are blessed, pure race. But she was a good person. She married with Jewish, and then unfortunately, his wife, his husband, and his father-in-law all died, and then still she believed and then trusted and then followed mother-in-law. So this means through mother-in-law, she really inherited absolute faith, and then she wanted to have the generation lineage of the Jewish, so she could be successful. See, from the prostitute, the lowest position, and then Gentile, and then next is Bathsheba. She is a married woman. Okay? She's a married woman. Not, Ruth was, widow. This means husband already died. Therefore, can marry with among the Gentile, no problem, right? Bathsheba, Jewish, she married, her husband is at that time living. But King David wanted her, and then this is, against the human law. But God have to work, in order to restore life or death, to believe in God. Absolutely, God can use only the women. She's ready to die for the sake of God. So Bathsheba accepted the King David's proposal, and after her prayer, and then she abandoned, her husband was sent to the war, and her husband was, killed. And then after that, after God has been working on this foundation, already God has a right to give the birth, God is looking for the women to choose the pure womb, so that God can send the begotten son. So Mary was engaged woman. So she was pure, faithful. Her parents also very faithful. Joseph's family also very good. Also, they are both are the descendants of the King David. So they are faithful Jewish people. But God asked her, amazing order. So she completely denied herself, ready to die, but to fulfill God's will. And she became pregnant, not from the engaged man, but other elder person. So this was Jesus. Jesus could be born. But, okay, we know Jesus was born as a, pure son of God, but unfortunately, he could not marry. He could not find, he could find, but he could not marry with begotten pure daughter. Because Mary, at that time, people could not understand what Jesus wanted to do. This was everything insane. They cannot understand humanistic viewpoint. So Jesus was killed. So therefore, God have to wait, on this foundation, okay, the begotten Son of God, this was no need to repeat the restoration process. So true Father, Sun Myung Moon inherited Jesus' foundation. It was not necessary to repeat to change the blood lineage. God have to find only the foundation, to send the begotten son. But how about the women, begotten daughter? So God have to prepare, to find the similar, a woman similar to pure Eve before the fall. This was a providence 2,000 years ago, okay, started. on this foundation, a pure women have to appear. So, since then, I cannot see, oh no. Providence centered on Christianity, a bright religion. God had kept the privilege that he had accomplished the condition to restore women similar to pure Eve before the fall. And finally, God exercised this privilege and established the only begotten daughter, Hak Jahan, on the Korean peninsula. Thus, the marriage of the Lamb, the sacred marriage, was held, and true parents appeared. So, begotten daughter, finally in Korean peninsula, you know, the third Eve, our mother moon, Hak Jahan, could be born in Korean peninsula. So we are learning through the Mother of Peace. Every week we receive the guidance from the President Dankri. We learned how much True Mother was prepared. 3 generations, you know, strong faith, and then patriot, and then also Han family, clan Han is a long time ago, you know, 5,000 years ago, already prepared. So pure clan, and then True Mother was since the, you know, small child, she always experienced that God is his father, communicated, guided. She had many, many experiences. Therefore, she could grow up really, you know, in her life, daily life, she could always feel God's love, God's guidance. So God elevated, sorry, I cannot read all. God elevated, sorry, not yet. I want to somehow stop, sorry. How can I do? I'm sorry, disappeared. Another moment. Where is the moment? Oh, yes, yes. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. God elevated human beings who had fallen into the position of servant because of the fall of Adam and Eve to the position of servant, and then adopted children, finally through children through sending the Messiah or true parents. That is, God carried out the providence to restore human being who had received Satan's false love, false life, and false lineage to become true children with God's true love, true life, and true lineage. The providence of restoration of human beings who had become Satan's children to the position of true children is shown in the following slide. Okay. So, due to the fall, okay, Originally, God wanted to have the wonderful family, Adam, Eve completely united with God's heart, vision, exercise the filial piety and purity, fidelity, right? And then this was the idea, establish the God-centered family. But on the way to grow up, they failed. They could not fulfill their responsibility. God gave us human responsibility. The only human being has responsibility. Animals and plants don't have responsibility. They are everything guided by the principle. But human being, to become God's children, this means have to have the responsibility, freedom. So they could not fulfill their responsibility, misuse the freedom. And then finally, even they did not want it, but they fell, they died spiritually. Spiritually died, and then Satan, Lucifer became the Satan. The Lucifer controlled our human spirit and our body. So therefore, all human beings became, very miserable. God has been working through religion, and then step by step, God called Abraham, Old Testament age, and then at that time, relationship with God is, God and human being relationship is master and servant of servant. Servant of servant means cannot understand God's heart vision, absolutely just follow. Yeah? So therefore, Abraham fulfilled absolute faith. And then next, God is guiding all the time. And then those who can respond, who could respond. Yeah? This was Moses' time. Moses' time is God gave the commandment. This means God gave Moses directly the God's words. So this means the spirituality became better, higher, but the relationship is not between God and human beings, not parent-children. Still, position became servant, Servant of servant means, before Abraham time, human being is, no human rights. Very miserable, cannot complain anything. So very miserable situation. So Moses' time, our human responsibility, human relationship with God is a Lord, and the human being the servant. Okay? And then on the foundation of the absolute faith, practicing, going back to the Israel, and God could send finally Jesus. And then God wanted, actually, Jesus become the true parents. All human beings should be reborn as children of God. But unfortunately, he was not accepted. He was misunderstood. So he could not marry with a begotten daughter. God could prepare, surely, but he could not. He had no foundation. His family did not understand. His, Jewish people, also religious leader also persecuted. So finally, she had no choice to choose, accept the way of the cross. So he paid all the indemnity for himself and they forgive the foreign people. On this foundation, God can send, because of the Jesus, victory of the true love, because of that, God can send the second Messiah. This is a true parent, right? So Jesus' time, New Testament era is still the relationship between God and human being is not true relationship. The parents, God is a father, human being is still adopted child. Yeah, much better, because Christian always called God the Heavenly Father. So they are calling God not Lord, but more as a father. Closer artistic relationship, but because adopted child relationship means lineage is a different. Therefore, Christian cannot understand God's deep heart. So after that, 2,000 years later, finally, God could send a begotten son and daughter in Korea through father and through mother. And not only just they are born, they fulfilled their responsibility. They, important is God prepared, but always, because of human responsibility, postponed, right? But the Father and Mother Moon could fulfill their responsibility. Do you remember President Dunkley's guidance, Mother Moon, also she knew when she was young, 16 already, she knew her mission. And then when she was chosen to be the bride of the Messiah, but she has been waiting just, to decide for the Moon to find her as a wife of the Messiah. So this means every second, every moment, there is a responsibility. So therefore, it's not automatically, that everything happened. Father and Mother Moon fulfilled as a Messiah, and then they could find each other as a couple. This is amazing miracle, So holy marriage, blessing under true parents. Okay? Father Moon inherited Jesus' mission and overcame many hardships. Father Moon, the third Adam, the Mother Moon, the third Eve, held the marriage of the Lamb and became true parents, completing the ideal of creation. Now, if we receive the holy blessing from true parents, we also can become a true husband and true wife. The way to enter heaven is finally open. Human beings who are wild olive trees can become true olive trees by being engrafted to the true olive tree, true parents. So we are actually born as a wild olive tree. Wild olive trees, if we are not engrafted, we always, reproduce the foreign people. Just like Christians have the strong faith, Buddhist people have strong faith, but always repeating, same foreign people appear because of the lineage. That's why Messiah's main mission is to change the blood lineage. They are the one, after 6,000 years of God hard working, and they are also fulfilling the responsibility they could finally true parents. And this is our responsibility, to really recognize amazing, Father and Mother Moon become true parents. So we have to really study hard and then to understand, we are living in a very special time. We are the, we did not make effort by ourselves, but we are called by God. And then Father and Mother Moon want to embrace everyone, doesn't matter any religion, doesn't matter atheist, communist, doesn't matter. They see us, as their own children. But in order to be connected, you know, with Heavenly Parents through love, we have to be reborn. You know, we have to deny ourselves, just as former through the history, the many people have to deny their own thinking, or or human ethics standard. You know, cannot understand what is a providence. When we can understand divine principle, chapter 2, what happened, and then restoration process, then we can understand, right? So most important thing, really, we really need to the value of the true parents. So they are as the only begotten son and only begotten daughter of God. It took 6,000 years. Okay, so to purify the lineage, 4,000 years for the Jesus, right? And then for the begotten daughter, 6,000 years. It took time, you know. On this foundation, we can, everyone who can understand, who want to follow, you know, through parents, through holy blessing, can be reborn, you know, can be reborn. We can have the chance, you know, to become true son and daughter. Holy blessing is everyone have to go through the gate. Even we receive the blessing, does not happen automatically. We have their own responsibility to fulfill. Messiah have the responsibility, but Messiah's couple, they paid a lot of indemnities for us because we made many mistakes. We did not understand history. We just really just followed. I did not understand well, just follow, you know. It was not enough. When we study the history, how we, you know, as a originally children of God, we have the responsibility to become, you know, filial son and daughter, to understand parents' heart and vision. So this is a wonderful time. I really wish everyone, okay, single members, and then our blessed families, relatives, and their friends, we all, you know, are invited. And then especially True Mother is still on this earth, is a great opportunity to indemnify a lot by uniting with her, you know, as a representative of all our ancestors. Thank you very much for your listening. こんにちは。